Yeah, hi there. These comments are for why. And I am Michael, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-Step System to Pass a TOEFL IBT. You are a TOEFL writing bootcamp student. And you don't even need the TOEFL. You just want to work on improving your writing proficiency for college level study. And that's what I want to do here. I'm going to go over the essay now. I scored you at 3.0 out of 5 or 20 points out of 30. First of all, I'm going to let you know that. So let me put it up here. So your score, 3.0 out of 5 or 20 points out of 30. However, for writing at the collegiate level, my recommendation for you is I want you to try to get, by the time you finish my course, you got about 2 months here. You need to be getting higher than 4 here, 25 points out of 30. So when I looked at your score here, you have some limited range of sentence structures and vocabulary. You have some problems with sentence formation and word choice. You have unity, progression, coherence, but sometimes difficult to understand how your ideas are connected, and you can probably develop your ideas a little bit more. All right, so now what? I apologize for it takes time to do this kind of a thing, but I am going to correct every single thing in this essay. I'm going to show you what you have to do in order to get 100 points out of 100, and by the end of this video, I'm also going to go into my online course. I will tell you which areas of the course you need to focus on the most in order to improve your writing proficiency. Am I right? That's what we want to do right here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is, with each paragraph, I'm going to make all of the grammatical corrections that I need to make. And then I will make other changes. I may rewrite something, I may add something, I may delete something, and so on, but at least you can see what's going on. So first of all, do not separate your subject from its verb with a comma. Bad idea. So you can say, so if you put roommate, you put a roommate, right? So because it's a singular count noun, you need to put that noun marker there. So I'm going to take a note of different kinds of errors you're making too. So I'm going to put down count noun. A roommate is a person who lives in the same room with someone else. And I'm going to say, don't use the second person point of view too much in academic writing. That's typically not the most appropriate point of view. He or she could be a friend, a classmate, or any person who is sharing. You can't do that. You can't say is. You can say who is sharing, but you don't even need that. Just say who shares a room. Someone has never met him or her before. Some students like to share their rooms. It's THEIR because you want the possessive word here. With roommates, we're going to school, universities for many reasons. So here, what you can do here is you're having some sentence structure problems. What if you put a colon here? I'm going to change this to companionship. So some students like to share their rooms with roommates who are going to school, university for many reasons. Companionship. And let's change this to a gerund so we have nouns. Saving money when sharing the rent and bills with. You have to say here, when sharing. Why is that? You have saving some money when you can put when they share the rent and bills or when sharing the rent and bills with somebody else. But you don't even have to say somebody else. I don't even think that's needed. I think we have it. So we have this straightened out. So some students like to share their rooms with roommates who are going to school or university for many reasons. Companionship, saving some money when sharing the rent and bills, and motivations to study. And instead of having two separate sentences, it's a little bit odd. You just need one. You can say something like, of course, finding, how about good roommates? It's not easy. And how about this? Maybe a connector word. So, in fact, instead of saying there, I'm going to get rid of that. Some important qualities of a good roommate. How about students' lives easier? In my opinion, a good roommate should be respectful, clean, and friendly. You don't have to be close friend to your roommate. However, it's important to have a good relationship with him or her. And we got to connect this back a little bit better. So I'll show you one. Okay, so I'm going to take this second sentence. I'm going to make sure I connect it back to the previous sentence, which is important. So I'm going to start off with even though. I'll put even though someone doesn't have to be close friends with his or her roommate, having these three specific qualities will ensure that all of those living together will have good relationships. Now, what did I do there exactly? Your sentence didn't tie back to your thesis. Because the thesis is important, it helps give direction to the paper, and the sentence after that didn't really do that. So that's why I said, even though someone doesn't have to be close friends with his or her roommate, having these three specific qualities, I put this in there because it ties back to respectful, clean, and friendly, will ensure that all of those living together will have good relationships. So that's what I did there to make this. So basically, I I error corrected, the two paragraphs. I combined them. I made some changes near the end of the paragraph in order to create a little bit better organization. All right, let's take a look at your next paragraph. So your purpose of this paragraph is to develop your first point of respect, right? So one of the most important qualities for good roommates is to be respectful. I'm going to combine these two sentences so you have a little bit more advanced grammar. In that, you ever use in that or in as much as? It's kind of like because, not exactly like because, but in that or in as much as, he should respect his boundaries and respect the place he's sharing with me. This is where you got to end this sentence. You don't want to do this. This is called a comma splice. Go to Google. What is a comma splice? You need to do some research on that and stop it. This is not good for your academic writing. You need to show your professors you know when one sentence ends and a new one begins. So you say, for example, if I have a deadline, you have a deadline for my, how about biology exam, and if I have to study in a quiet place while he has the music on, too loudly. Now here's the thing. You now have a fragment, believe it or not. A fragment means you don't have a complete sentence. You need a comma here, and you have to complete this idea. So you have, if I have a deadline for my biology exam, and if I have to study in a quiet place where he has the music on too loudly, I will not be able to concentrate on my studies due to his disrespecting our shared living space then you go with what you just said. So you need cause effect connector in here. Therefore, doesn't respect the situation, and he, I'll put has passed his boundaries by interfering with mine, which means my boundaries. Okay, so what do we have here? Let me just double check here. Your paragraph, it's more or less developed, but I encourage you to work on 100 to 150 words for a lot of your academic writing and those paragraphs, so you're almost where you need to be with this one here. What else can we do here? I put in biology exam, right? You might say something like this. Now I think we've developed this one enough, right? Let's see what we have here. So now we're at 118 words, right? Again, you're putting that subject and you're separating your subject from the main part of the sentence with a verb. So problems with commas. Don't do this. And how many words do we have here anyway? Not enough, right? No, you got to get closer to 100 on these things. So being a clean person is also very important trait. And I wouldn't even use it. It's kind of a dead word, doesn't do very much. So it is an important trait for a good roommate. No one, instead of you, again, avoid the impersonal you, that second person singular, not the right point of view for this type of writing. And for the writing you're doing, I think in a lot of university classes and things. So being a clean person is also an important trait for roommate. Notice I use the word also here. So this is one thing that you can work on. You need to better connect your ideas together. You remember in that very first paragraph, I had to put in the words having these three specific qualities. Why'd I do it? Because it refers back to those three things. But I'm using the word also here because it adds to what you've already said in this paragraph. So you definitely want to make those kind of connections. Okay, so being a clean person is also an important trait for a good roommate. No one wants to live in a dirty place. As a result, cause effect. So we want to tie the ideas together. He has to clean. How about make an effort to keep the shared living spaces clean? Let's look at it again. So as a result, he has to make an effort to keep the shared living spaces clean since you already said share, so I'm not going to use it here. So since we share the kitchen and the restroom. No, you have another comma splice. Wow, we got to get that nipped in the bud here. So maybe put a period here and then put since. So since we share the kitchen and the restroom, he has to clean them. Pronoun referent issue, right? Why am I putting them in there? Because them refers to kitchen and restroom. That's plural. So he has to clean them after each time he uses. Or how about this? These areas of the apartment. For example, if he cooks his dinner and leaves without, you got to watch out here. We have to use a gerund here after the preposition there. So I'm going to write this down. So gerunds. So if he cooks his dinner and leaves without cleaning his dishes, I cannot do. I'm going to put that here for him. Now what I'm going to do here, because this paragraph is not really developed, let's go to the example. You talked about the kitchen and the restroom, right? Does that make sense? So when we look at your development here, we got your 79 words. But what if you give another example about the bathroom? Or if he showers in the bathroom he is expected to also keep those areas orderly and sanitary then you might want to say consequently we may have guests come to our apartment who may then you might say thus has to be responsible for keeping we got it. So again, you want to take time to develop your topics a little bit more. Now, I probably overdid it, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of the kind of development that's expected in university classes. So this is 150 words. This is perfect. This is a good paragraph. Remember that I am a professor here at California State University, San Bernardino. I teach lower and upper division writing courses. So I'm trying to give you some tips on how you can show a little bit more depth to your writing. So let's look at it one more time here. Being a clean person is also an important trait for a good roommate. No one wants to live in a dirty place. As a result, he has to make an effort to keep the living spaces clean. Since we share the kitchen and the restroom, he has to clean them after each time he uses these areas of the apartment. For example, if he cooks his dinner and leaves without cleaning his dishes, I cannot do that for him. Or if he showers or uses a toilet, in the sink in the bathroom, he's expected to also keep those areas orderly and sanitary. Consequently, how about for instance is better? For instance, sometimes we may have guests come to our apartment who may need to use a bathroom, and it would be disrespectful to them if we did not keep that area clean and sanitary. Thus, a roommate has to be responsible for keeping the shared living spaces and his own living spaces clean. Right? So we are good. Now, the main thing for you is the TOEFL allows 30 minutes on this kind of writing, but for you, don't worry about that. I want you to take more time when you're doing writing. You can take an hour if you want to write one of these, but I just want you to get used to the development that you're looking for. In addition, and I would probably here, I like how you're using the word in addition to add to what you've already said, but because this is the last point, it might be better to say, finally, a roommate should be friendly. This means we should have some talks at the end of the day to build good relationships together. How about this? Having these intimate conversations could be the main reason to have roommates. You say to have a good talk. We've already said that. I'm going to just say here, so we can share some of our personal lives with each other. I'm trying to be more specific. So, for instance, sometimes at school I may get frustrated when I get a lower test score or when I am... Let's do three things. When I am having trouble maybe registering for classes for the next term, or when I am having some difficulties with my girlfriend. Other close friends. Then I'm going to say this. I'm going to take what you're saying. So what I'm doing is I'm providing a little more context for what you said here. Okay, so we have here if my roommate is not friendly and sociable, I will not be able to explain to him these problems. So if my roommate is not friendly and sociable, I will not be able to explain to him these problems. This will not this will not be beneficial for me since I am looking for maybe with whom I can share my frustrations and my joys. Okay, I think we're going in the right direction here. So how many words do we have here? It should be over 100, right? That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm going to challenge you to do. So we're at 134 here. So finally, a roommate should be friendly. This means that we should have some talks at the end of the day to build good relationships together. Having these intimate conversations could be the main reason to have roommates, so we can share some of our personal lives with each other. For instance, sometimes at school, I may get frustrated when I get a lower test score, when I'm having trouble registering for classes for the next term, or when I'm having some difficulties with my girlfriend or other close friends. You know why I did this? Remember, this is a fairly long sentence, right? Why did I do that? Because your first two sentences were really short. So you can't just use short sentences all the time in academic writing. So typically, Yasemin, is longer sentences when played against shorter sentences, it creates a little bit better type of rhythm with your writing. And that's why this is also a longer sentence. If my roommate is not friendly and sociable, I will not be able to explain to him these problems, and this will not be beneficial for me since I'm looking with someone with whom I can share my frustrations and my joys. Okay, now we're going to the final paragraph, right? Okay, let's see how we did here. Okay, let's look at this final paragraph. You have some awkward grammar here. So at the end, a good roommate, and then it is depend. Again, you're doing that same grammar. Here's the rule. Be plus ing or have plus the past participle. You got to remember that. So when I see it is depend, I know that that's a grammar error because you cannot use be with the base form of the verb. So you might say here, finding a good roommate depends on what you're looking for to share a place with him or her. If he respects, notice how you're not using that third person S. This is subject-verb agreement. You want to make sure you're putting those S endings on the ends of your verbs when they're third person. So if he respects his boundaries, is a clean person, and is friendly. Again, you have a fragment here. So you want to put a comma. That way you say, if he respects his boundaries, is a clean person, and is friendly, this becomes part of the previous, this will make a successful relationship with him, even if he is not. How about even if he does not end up being a close friend, even if he does not becoming a close friend I'm going to say, but at least we can be in good company, and friendly with each other. Okay, think we're in pretty good shape here, right? Now notice basically what I did here. Let's look at the differences in the development of the ideas. So with your essay, it was developed, don't get me wrong, but not as developed as mine. So we have 409 words, right? So then in the revision, in terms of rewriting your essay, now we're moving it to 610 words. So I added a couple of hundred words into some of those body paragraphs in order to show a little more depth and complexity of thought. All right? Now the next step, let's take a minute and let's do a spell check. Let's see how we're doing here. Okay, so the next step here is I'm going to do a quick spell check. So disrespecting, okay, here it is. Conversations. Okay, let's read the whole thing one more time, and then we're going to go into my website. Now remember that for 5 years you have not been able to improve your writing. It is not where it needs to be right now. Now what I'm doing as a professional TOEFL IBT writing specialist and also as an English composition professor is I'm going to tell you what you need to do. Now, if you don't follow my suggestions, you will continue to be in the same sad state that you are right now with your writing. You can improve the writing, but it's going to take some time. And it's not just about doing writing practice tests. Writing practice tests are good, but you actually need to improve your writing proficiency. There are some specific things that you can do, right? That's kind of what we're talking about. Actually, let me skip it over here. Okay, let's go to the first paragraph. So a roommate is a person who lives in the same room with someone else. He or she could be a friend, a classmate, or any person who shares a room, even if someone has never met him or her before. Some students like to share their rooms with roommates while going to school or university for many reasons. Companionship, saving some money when sharing the rent and bills, and motivation to study. Of course, finding good roommates is not easy. In fact, some important qualities of a good roommate will make students' lives easier. In my opinion, a good roommate should be respectful, clean, and friendly. Even though someone doesn't have to be close friends with his or her roommate, having these 3 specific qualities will ensure that all of those living together will have good relationships. That's it. So that's that paragraph. Let's go to the next one. One of the important qualities for good roommates is to be respectful in that he should respect his boundaries and respect the place he is sharing with me. For example, if I have a deadline for my biology exam, and if I have to study in a quiet place while he has the music on too loudly, I will not be able to concentrate on my studies due to his disrespecting our shared living space. Therefore, this type of roommate doesn't respect the situation and he has passed his boundaries by interfering with mine. This type of respect must be mutual in the sense that I will also show my roommate the same respect that he is showing me. Being clean is also an important trait for a good roommate. No one wants to live in a dirty place. As a result, he has to make an effort to keep the living spaces clean. Since we share the kitchen and the restroom, he has to clean them after each time he uses these areas of the apartment. For example, if he cooks his dinner and leaves without cleaning his dishes, I cannot do that for him. Or if he showers or uses a toilet and the sink in the bathroom, he's expected to also keep those areas orderly and sanitary. For instance, sometimes we may have guests come to our apartment who may need to use a bathroom, and it would be disrespectful to them if we did not keep that area clean and sanitary. Thus, a roommate has to be responsible for keeping his shared living spaces and his own living spaces clean. Now notice here how I use disrespectful. This also ties into the previous paragraph. Am I right? Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. Finally, a roommate should be friendly. This means that we should have talks at the end of the day to build good relationships together. Having these intimate conversations could be the main reason to have roommates, so that we can share some of our personal lives with each other. For instance, sometimes at school, I may get frustrated when I get a lower test score, when I'm having trouble registering for classes for the next term, or when I'm having some difficulties with my girlfriend or other close friends. If my roommate is not friendly and sociable, I will not be able to explain to him these problems, and this will not be beneficial for me, since I'm looking for someone with whom I can share my frustrations and my joys. At the end, finding a good roommate depends on what you're looking for to share a place with him or her. If he respects his boundaries, is a clean person, and is friendly, this will make us a successful relationship with him, even if he does not end up becoming a close friend. But at least we can be in good company and friendly with each other. Okay, I think we have it. So those are the changes that I would make. So I took your essay, which is a 3 out of 5 or 20 points out of 30. I rewrote it so it now has 5.5 out of 5 or 30 points out of 30. So for you, your essay for TOEFL purposes, I would say does not pass for all the reasons I just explained here. Am I right? All right, so you'll notice if you look at your TOEFL writing bootcamp outline, I have language use practice, and you do it in terms of vocabulary and grammar study, and you need a lot of that. I'm going to be honest with you. So you really need to improve your vocabulary and your grammar if you're serious about improving your writing. So I'm going to make some recommendations here. You need to master vocabulary lesson number 4, number 5, and number 6. You definitely need more college level vocabulary with your writing. That's going to be helpful. So those 3 lessons. When you go to those lessons, I'll give you some instructions on how you can learn those words. Follow my instructions. It'll take you a month or so to learn these words, but I'm telling you, it'll really positively impact your fluency with writing. Grammar, there's a whole host of things that you got to get here. So generally speaking, you're not combining your sentences enough. You have a very short sentence style, so you got to work on a lot of things there. So I think maybe lesson 3, sentences with participial phrases. Lesson 4, sentences with appositives. Compound sentences, lesson 5. Sentences with adjective clauses, lesson 6. Lesson 7, noun clauses. Lesson 8, adverb clauses. Lesson 9, multiple clauses. And even check out lesson 10, misplaced modifiers. It's not that you have that grammar error, but you need to learn how to combine your sentences by following some of the examples there. Lesson number 11 is important for you. Subject, verb, inversion. Sometimes, not all the time, you have some problems with word forms. That's lesson number 12. Lesson 13, word choice. You remember there and there? So you have to be careful about your word choice. Lesson 14, parallel structure. You also need to review that. Lesson 16, count and non-count nouns. Verb tenses, generally, you understand, I think, verb tenses. Just be careful about saying is write. I can say, I am write a book right now. You can say, I am writing a book, or I write a book right now. So be careful about that. What else? Let me keep going. So those are some things you want to take a look at. Lesson 20, articles, a, and the. Subject-verb agreement. I remember we talked about this big time. Lesson 24, gerunds and infinitives. And lesson 25, stop everything. You do 2 things here. A lot of comma splices, a lot of fragments. You need to develop better control over that. Lesson 26, sentence variety. This is also very important for you right now. Being more concise. Yes, sometimes you're writing. You notice some of the changes I made. You have a tendency to be a little bit too verbal or use too many words. When to use commas. Yes, you don't know how to do that. So lesson 28 is important. Lesson 29, I would say study it just so you can advance your understanding of punctuation. So I think that's good. And I think that's it. Okay, now let's go to writing. Let me see if anything sticks out here in the writing part of my course. There's a few other things I want you to focus on here. Okay, in writing, let's see what we have. You understand the idea of the thesis and things, so I don't think that's a major problem. How about maybe topic sentences? Nah, you're pretty good on that. This one, using transition words to connect ideas. Yes, check that out. Lesson 5.4 here, writing details to support generalizations. Yes, you need more help with that. Lesson 5, how to show depth and complexity of thought. Yes, you need help with that. Lesson 5.6, writing the perfect paragraph. Watch that at least 3 times, right? And then there's one more. I have only one more lesson here. This one is how to make your writing more coherent, lesson number 8. So like I was saying when I was looking at your essay, you're not, I think, connecting ideas within a paragraph together as well as you could. So you need to review this to get some good, what we call 4 cohesive tips to organize your writing. And there we go. And I said enough. So I apologize for the lengthy video, but here's what you know now. Based on your writing sample, I've been able to figure out quite a few things about your writing. I don't know if this has ever been done before in your writing, but you now know exactly what some of your problems are, and you now know what you need to do in order to improve in those areas. So remember, when you do vocabulary and grammar practice, you want to write down the vocabulary words. You want to write down some of those sample sentences that you see in the grammar section, and that can be very, very helpful for you. All right? And what you can also do is you can start sending me more writing practice tests, but keeping in mind all the comments I've been giving you today, you want to try to incorporate these things into your new practice tests. Now, all other writing practice tests that you send me, my teaching assistant, he will read, evaluate, and score those practice tests. Now, you have one more video correction that you can send as a TOEFL Writing Bootcamp student. I recommend that you do one of my integrated writing practice tests. And why am I telling you this? Because with integrated writing, you're actually reading and listening to things, and then you're summarizing that information. And that is also a very, very academic type writing task. So it's going to tell me how well you can summarize and explain other people's ideas. So that's also why I recommend that. So remember, so you get 2 video corrections during the 2 months, and then all of your other writing practice tests, my teaching assistant will take a look at. Does that make sense? So good luck to you. If you have any other questions, you can send it by email. You can talk to me. I will continue to work with you. I think you can solve these problems, but they're pretty big problems. I told you it was going to be difficult. Remember what I said in the email? So now you know what I'm talking about, right?